All right, guys, let's get started. So we talking about rocks today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hello, Courtney. I don't know who's gone in the 6th grade class, but hello, Courtney. All right, rocks. Quiet up, quiet, please. So we are talking about rocks over the next. It's going to be over the next month. It's going to be over the next month because over the next 2 weeks, we'll be going over rocks. We're not going to quite finish it over the next 2 weeks. So something I'll show you here on the calendar. So just peeking our attention over here. Here's why it's going to be about a month. So this week, we're going through lesson 131 on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thursday and Friday, you're getting a quiz over what we talked about with minerals. All right. Next week, we will be going over lesson 132 on Monday and Wednesday. On Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday, we'll go over lesson 133. Friday will be a work day for that week, we're going to start the final exam on Friday. The final exam will be about 3 days of in-class time. Now, do all of you need that? No, but I'm giving all of my students 3 in-class days to do it, because that will be more than enough time to finish 80 questions of a science test. Yeah, that's for math. So what are we doing week 10? Well, we're working on final exams and catch-up days. A lot of you are behind in many things, and then a lot of you are all caught up with everything. So the last week of school is for you to get caught up. Do not get to the point where you're having to catch up on literally everything, especially notes, right? Especially notes. If you are behind on one of the lessons, just go through your notebook, look through, make sure you have all the lessons from 111 now to 131. If you are missing one of the lessons, just go back onto Google Classroom, find which one you're missing, or find one of your friends and copy their notes. Yes, I am okay if you copy someone else's notes. If you were, for example, gone one day, right? What can you do about that? Nothing. You're gone one day. You're sick, whatever. So what do? Just copy someone else's notes, get it in your notebook. I am fine with that. Just make sure you have every single lesson for this quarter. That is coming up very quickly, very quickly. So make sure you're all caught up on notes. That's going to be about 40% of your grade is just your notes for science. We already talked about this guy right here. So we are on lesson 131. If you haven't opened up your book already, we're on page 38. We're on page 38. I've seen a lot of you just diligently and quietly working away, and I'm happy about that, getting a little bit of a head start. So warm up, just like normal. The first thing we do when we start a lesson, you're reading the lesson, right? Read through the lesson. If you do it in opposite order, I'm fine with that. If you want to start with the vocab first and then read, that's fine, because you kind of need to know what the vocab words mean before you read. So I'm good if you switch these around, start with the vocab words first and then read. That's perfectly fine. So you're going to notice there's a lot of vocab words, 7 of them. So you are not just, one thing I need to clear up, because in the 6th grade class, I didn't realize I didn't make this clear. Exactly. For the vocab words, you're not just writing, what's the first vocab word, Aries?
Exclusive.
Exclusive?
Extrusive.
Extrusive. That's what.
The one above.
So extrusive rock. Okay, and what's the next vocab word?
Felsic rock, my favorite.
I don't know how to spell that. Fel.
It's exactly how it sounds.
It's
Okay.
It's an S. And that's
Felsic rock. Okay, and then they would write down the other 5 vocab words. So what am I missing here? Aries?
The whole point vocab, the definition of it.
Exactly. The whole point of me wanting you to write vocab words down is make sure when you write down the term, after that, write down what the definition is. So for extrusive rock, after you write it down, on the other side, write down what the definition is, right? Same thing with felsic rock and all of those. That's why I give you 20 minutes to do this, because that takes a little bit of time. If you finish the vocab words and the reading within the 20 minutes, what I would like you to do, can someone take a guess at what I want you to do after that, Aiden?
Or
Can you read it? Yep. Go through and do the italicized words first. What are italicized words? They're the slanted words. There's quite a few italicized words in there as well. Those are words that are not vocab words, but they're very important words that you need to know for testing purposes.
I keep reading
4. So yeah, you're at least writing down over 10 vocab / italicized words. So You guys are going to need this 20 minutes. If you finish all of that in that amount of time, if you're just super, super fast and your notes are probably pretty messy, reread through the lesson.
But you only need to do like 2 with the tile size, because they're all most
Kind of in a paragraph.
Yep.
Yep.
Not 3 you have to do.
All right, so with that said, if you have a question, raise your hand and I'll come by and answer it. But right now, 20 minutes, starting now, and I'm going to pause this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Recording in progress. So I have some shout outs to give to some middle schoolers. So those shout outs are going to my main man, JB, Johnny Bliss over there, my thebomb.com Aries Lance, and Mr. I like your toes, Talon Van Orwick, little Mr. Tiny Dancer over there, Blake. We got Bethy Hansen over there on the keyboard. I said on the keyboard. I got William over there with the Pat Mahomes cut, looking fresh. Pat Mahomes, not doing so good. We got Cheeky Nuggy 3000 over there, Mr. Aiden Morley. Ian, Mr. Water Bottle and Glasses.
For 2 hours and more.
And with the, yeah, we're getting worse and worse as we go. We got Calum in the back over there, twiddling his fingers. I don't even know what he's doing back there. We got Grace just patiently shaking her head at Mr. Doomer with his terrible descriptions here. And we got Juliana. We just got Juliana. Waffle, love it.
Is my favorite color.
Subscribe to all those people. All right, let's go. I didn't see your hand was up, Brady. Or else I'm never shouting out to any of you ever again. All right. William, are you dying? No. Then get out of the hood. Ian, or not Ian, Aiden. Knock it off.
What does that mean?
Intro. So you need to get this written down. You need to get it written down unless I say not to. So I got a couple things for you up here. First off, things I need to tell you about are these things right here. Mafic and Felsic. Mafic and Felsic. So Mafic, it comes from magnesium. It comes from magnesium and iron. So if it is mafic rock, it is going to have magnesium and iron in it. So mafic rocks, an example of that would be basalt. So a very, very hard type of rock. It is going to have a high amount of iron and magnesium. And that's one reason why it is such a hard, dense type of rock. Felsic, it comes from feldspar. It comes from feldspar. What does it include? It includes potassium, sodium, and silicates. What are silicates? Silicates, silicon, and oxygen. So what do you need to know for testing purposes for this slide right here? You need to know that mafic includes magnesium and iron. So if I were to give you a question like this on a quiz, I would say, I'd probably do like not a true false, that would be no fun. I would probably do a multiple choice. For mafic, I would say mafic includes, and I would list magnesium and iron, magnesium and potassium, iron and sodium, potassium, sodium, and silica, or all of the above. Those would be my options for you to choose from. What would you need to circle? The first one. It needs to include magnesium and iron. Yes, Kayla?
So what's MG?
Oh, that says MA. Yeah, it's supposed to be MG. That was my fault. I fat fingered it. There it is. So Mg, magnesium, Fe is iron. That's probably one of the most weird ones you'd have to remember. That's kind of what makes it easier to remember. We have K, another weird one, which is potassium. And then we have, was it sodium? Yeah, sodium, which is Na, another weird one. So all of these except for magnesium are kind of easier to remember. Silicate, Silicon, easy to remember, Si, the first two letters of silicon. Oxygen, it's just O. The first letter of oxygen is O. Questions here regarding mafic and felsic? Brady, tiny bit, yes. I can wait a tiny bit. So some other examples of mafic rocks we have up there, gabbro, basalt, and then for felsic we have granite and rhyolite. Johnny?
So yeah, so I know that some of the letters on the periodic table, they like the letters that represent them are partially two letters, key letters in the book,
Yes.
but some don't have it. So it's just like Igneous and also.
So you're talking about like iron, for example, how it says Fe. So here's why iron is Fe. If I look over here, I have I is iodine, so iodine is already taken for I, and then there is IR right here already for iridium. And then, yeah, so usually why it has something else is because of a different element already having those two initials. That's usually what it is. Na for sodium, yep. S has already been taken up by sulfur. And then SO, I think our SO is up there for something else as well. So yeah, PO is polonium. So there's lots of different stuff out there.
But you think the more the ones who start out first, like iron.
So that's a good point right there. That's something I want to say about the periodic table real quick. So this is not the order of how we discovered everything. So hydrogen, not the first element we discovered. Helium, not the first element we discovered. This right here is organized, not in order of how we discovered them. It's organized in different groups, right? So we have metals all on the left side, except for hydrogen. On the right side, we have non-metals over here in this little section. Metalloids right here in this little super red, right? So it's organized not by how it was discovered. They're organized by their chemical makeup. Also by how many protons and neutrons they have, how many electrons, right? It's atomic numbers. But again, we're not going to talk about any of that, but I just want to bring up that point since, Caleb, you mentioned that. Dylan? What is the first element discovered ever? I have no idea. I don't think they were just like one day when Adam and Eve were on the earth and they're like, oh, I think that is hydrogen that I am breathing with a little bit of oxygen, some CO2, so maybe a little bit of carbon. No, I don't think they were doing that. I think one day when they were studying atoms, so back only a few hundred years ago when they're studying atoms, they just started to discover periodic tables. I'm not going to go back and do the history of periodic table because that's not what we're talking about. So back to rocks. Because I could talk about the periodic table forever, but I do not want to get off track from rocks because rocks are cool in their own way. Okay, so we have major types of rocks that we're going to be talking about this week. So the next 3 lessons we're talking about, we have for this lesson, igneous rocks. That's the very first lesson we're talking about is igneous rocks. The next lesson, I'm pretty sure, is metamorphic. And then the one after that is sedimentary. And then the 4th lesson in the rocks series is going to be the rock cycle. So those are going to be the 4 lessons that we're talking about. So the first part, the 3 types of rocks, they are listed up there. Those are the major types of rocks. So those are the classifications, how you identify them. And that is igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Those are our major types of rocks. So it says that very first point that a rock is a group of minerals. Who can tell me what a mineral is? Because you're going to be tested about that on Friday. What is a mineral, Brady? It's an elementary compound. Johnny?
So it's a mineral is as a crystalline structure, a definite chemical composition, it's inorganic, it's formed naturally.
That's pretty much the core. There's some something else in there too, but I forgot what it was. But that was a good explanation. So what is a rock? Well, a rock is a group of minerals. So it's multiple types of minerals. So when you're talking about a rock in general, you're not talking about just one mineral. A rock is made up of a bunch of different types of minerals. It could be a couple different types of minerals, but if you're only talking about one single rock, that is one single mineral, you're not talking about a rock. You're talking about a single mineral. A rock is made up of multiple, 2 or more minerals. Aiden?
What was the newest?
So like the newest element or mineral?
Well,
Element? I can't remember what's the newest one. It's a radioactive one that we've only discovered for like a split second. Yeah, it's a very, I can't remember which one it is, but it's one of those radioactive ones and we've only seen it. Yeah, so yeah, it's not something that lasts a long time. Like if you were to find solid gold, you can see gold in your hands. So, oh yeah, well, that periodic table is going to get bigger and bigger. As technology improves, as people get smarter and smarter, right?
Yeah.
We will discover new things. So
we don't know the physical state of it's 115.
oh, correct. That is correct. Yep. But next year we'll be talking about physical science. So those of you in 7th grade, we'll talk a lot more about the periodic table next year. Okay, so we're going to talk about each one of these on a single slide, just telling you how to differentiate each of the 3. So igneous, make sure you're getting this down. So igneous rocks, they are formed from a melt. What is a melt? Well, that's pretty much when you're melting rocks. So thinking about lava, that is how igneous rock is formed. So we're going to be talking a bit about volcanoes and lava and magma, fire in general. We're going to be talking a lot about that and how that forms igneous rock, because that's how igneous rock is formed, from intense high heat and high pressure. So we have these 2 words, plutonic and volcanic. I don't think they end up listing those words in your book if I remember right.
Yes, they're fine.
But what you need to know is these 2 terms right here. I don't expect you to know the plutonic and volcanic, because those are, I want you to know it by the easier terms, intrusive and extrusive. So when it is intrusive, that is the slow cooling of large crystals. So it takes a long time for it to cool down. That's intrusive. When it's extrusive, it's going to go through very, very quick cooling process. So intrusive, it takes a long time to cool. Extrinsic is going to be very, very quick. Ready? Oh, what's in minerals? Gotcha. I see. Yeah.
Can you send Maxton down?
Yes, I can.
No, no.
Well, you're not going home. Go play some football out in the pouring down rain. Jealous.
No,
Really?
I got an email saying that you are leaving at 12.
Why would the schedule?
But yeah, your final football game here.
No.
Oh, well, maybe I was lied to. Grab all your stuff. If not, we'll see.
Yeah, I was leaving one day,
Yeah.
and I was finally almost all my stuff.
All
And then
right,
like,
bring it back, guys. Quiet, please. I want to let Kayla finish her point. Go for it, Kayla.
In our vocab, it says that the extrusive is
Mr. Dewar, is he still in there?
Yeah,
Okay, it's tomorrow.
it's tomorrow. That's what he just said. Okay. You were right, Max. That's funny. Okay, okay, and now back to Kayla again.
It says that extrusive is when it's cooled on the earth.
Yes, So that's a really good point that you brought up right there. So in your book, the exact definition that they're using in the book, which is true as well, it says extrusive rock is formed when lava cools on the Earth's surface. When it's cooled on the Earth's surface. So, which makes sense, right? When it is rapid cooling, right when it hits the Earth's surface, it's going to cool down really quick because it's coming down into a very cool temperature out here in the atmosphere. But when it's inside the Earth's crust or even down into the magma, it's going to take a long time for it to cool down because it's so hot already there in the crust. So that's why I added this in there. That's a really good point, Kayla. But if you did not write these down because you're like, Mr. Doomer, I already wrote down those points. This is another way you're going to see me reword these definitions. Johnny?
I have a question. It's not about this, but it's about science.
Yes.
How fast is the sun move around? Actually, no. How fast does the Earth move around the sun?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Hey, Galileo.
Like
How
my
does
thing,
the sun?
it's not about the science either, but it is, isn't it, what's it called, neutrons, it's atomic weight? I mean, atomic number.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Yes, Kalen.
No, you still do that.
Yeah,
that's what those-
I'm not answering those questions. You can ask those on your TikToks and Insta snaps and all that. All right. One more slide. Does it sound good? One more. Actually, I want to get through two more. We're going to get through two more so we can be done. So our second major type is sedimentary. So we talked about igneous. That's what we're going to be talking about over the next 2 days. Next week, we're going to talk about sedimentary. And then the next one I'm going to mention. So sedimentary, it's formed at the Earth's surface. It's formed at the Earth's surface. So right when it hits the Earth's surface, sedimentary rock is created. Plastic, so that is mineral fragments or grains or clays. Chemical, so those are the two different ways they can be formed. So through chemical, different biochemical processes. So is that what your question was, William? What bio? So biochemical, so what does bi mean? Two. Bi means two. Chemical, meaning there's a, think of chemistry. There is some type of chemical reaction happening. So that means there's two chemical processes happening, is what biochemical means. Yep. So biochemical meaning there's two chemical processes happening. Crystalline, what does that mean? Well, it has a crystal looking structure. Chemical / biochemical, so there could be one chemical reaction happening or two chemical reactions happening. Precipitates. What's a precipitate? We haven't talked about that this year yet. What is a precipitate, Aiden?
Something that precipitates.
So you can't use a word, the actual word in the word's definition. Johnny?
Oh, it's just it's like this. It's when what it's something is with water, but then the water evaporates.
So regarding water, yes. Regarding water, yes. So yes, regarding water and rain, yes. Yep.
Oh, rain cooling.
So what is an actual precipitate?
Yeah.
Max? So when we're in science, we use the word precipitate a lot to describe certain things. So what is a precipitate?
It like evaporates and evaporates.
Have you guys talked about precipitates before?
Yeah, like in third grade.
It's called, like the rain.
You guys are talking about precipitation, the process. But a precipitate is something different. Let me give you a better.
Some water being moved around in the clouds and then like it does something positive.
That's precipitation happening. So precipitation is different. A precipitate, now I can't say it, precipitate is a cause, a substance to be deposited in solid form from a solution. So when the chemical process is happening, there is some type of solid that is created. So precipitation, you guys learned about that when you were first grade, second grade, third grade, I don't know what grade. When you were talking about what happens when it rains, where does the rain go? It goes to the ground. What happens to the rain that's on the ground? It evaporates. What happens to it? It precipitates, blah, 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 right? We're not talking about precipitation anymore. something you guys are gonna be talking a lot about throughout high school is precipitates. So precipitates, when you're in a chemistry class or any type of lab class, something you end up trying to make through a chemical reaction sometimes is you're trying to make some type of solid. So that's what how a sedimentary rock can be made. So through those high temperatures and processes, you can have an actual type of rock be formed through this chemical reaction. That's what's happening. Aries?
Several topics from our younger in our science class.
Mhm.
Third grade said one about like precipitates and stuff. We've learned more about like just how society builds using like
Yeah.
buildings and different types of stuff. But at the end of each month we would get type of food from different parts of the world.
Oh,
Like
cool.
we got some from Japan or something like that. So
You did that in a science class?
all huge other places.
How is that science? When you're getting foods from a different country, that's more social studies or history class.
Not the social. This is definitely, it was science, but
Were you studying the chemical composition of food?
bro, it's not this is what you expect.
So it sounds like you were having lunch class during science.
But that was only at the end of each
That's a little
month.
sus.
It was
Okay.
one day.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's sedimentary. We're gonna finish off on, so these are some examples of what happens with that chemical reaction. I got one more slide for you guys. So this is the result of what happens through that chemical process. And here is through the clastic sedimentary rock. So here is the more physical process. So we pretty much have a more physical versus chemical reaction. This is the clastic, this is the chemical. What do you guys notice between the two, how they look?
I'm guessing their texture.
Because these, you start out here, you go to here. On this one, you start out here and you go to here. What do we see is going on in these before and after pictures, Johnny?
So it looks like the rocky like goes away and a lot of crystals are made and it goes
On
from smoother to more dense.
Yeah, so on this one, it looks like a rock. It looks like if you look at a hillside and maybe there's been a bunch of rocks that have fallen off, this looks like part of that rock wall, right? And then you look at this, it looks like something pretty now. It's got some other colors, some more shimmer and shine to it.
Is that
Shimmer.
That's a bad show.
Oh, I thought it was like not appropriate. I'm like, isn't it a kid's show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
What show?
here is this guy, and it goes there. Okay, last thing I want you guys to get written down. The last one is metamorphic rock. How is metamorphic rock made? How is it classified? It is changed by heat, pressure, and fluids. So this, with metamorphic rock, the big difference here is talking about liquids. So we're just touching on those three things today. Tomorrow we will continue on talking about only the igneous rocks. So that's just touching on what we're going to talk about over the next couple weeks. You guys, once you get that one written down, you may quietly pack up and make sure nothing's on your desk. And you may go to lunch. No homework today. Good job.
Bye.
Hi, Courtney, or whoever's watching.
Bye.